Good morning, good afternoon, good day, and welcome to another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Today we're going to be talking about leads and sales challenges and demystifying them for our experts today. And today we've got Nyrie on the show again. We're doing a second episode for you. And Nyrie specialises in showing business owners and entrepreneurs how to get quality leads and turn quality leads into clients with her online agency, Leads Explosions, her programs and VIP days. She works with clients specifically to increase their database and get inbound leads. High quality clients that will walk over hot coals to work with you. So what we shared in our previous episode, we demystified sales funnels. We emphasized the power of the simplicity of them, and Nyrie actually revealed the secrets in converting quality leads lies not in complexity or costly strategies, but in crafting clear, concise messages that resonate deeply with our target's audience's needs and pains. We also explored the effectiveness as a potential tool. We also explored webinars as the effectiveness of a potential tool for establishing trust and authority. So webinars is something that we both do together, and collectively we help our audience understand how to utilize webinars from a funnels perspective and a contents perspective. We also talked about the importance of understanding our audience intimately, tailoring our approaches to meet them where they're actually at, and the necessary evil of sort of adjusting and tailoring as we go. So that adaptation and improvement as you go with your audience, as you're getting client feedback and testing things in the marketplace. We also talked about having a growth mindset and flexibility, so you can actually pave the way to attract leads and nurture lasting relationships to fuel that business success that we all look for. So today, Nyrie and I are going to be talking about leads and sales challenges, and let's welcome Nyrie to the stage, who's been here all the time. How are you, Nyrie?
Good. How are you today, Sally?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Again, I think we've got another exciting topic, and I really look forward to sharing your insights as it relates to generating leads and sales. As you mentioned last time, you actually gave up a corporate career, tested it for yourself, found that there was a working model, and now have been teaching other people how to generate leads and sales. So. What are some of the common challenges that you see experts often have in generating sales, and what is it that they come to you saying?
Yeah, look, I think there's probably three key challenges that experts come to me with, and that's usually about generating, firstly, the number of sales they want and getting the revenue targets that they want for their business. And they really just can't understand why they're not hitting those targets and why they're not getting the quantity of qualified leads that they're needing. It's okay, you can go out and you can get a lot of leads, but they may not be target market. They may not be your ideal client. And that's very frustrating for business owners, especially when they're putting hard-earned revenue and resources back into trying to generate those leads. So I think it's important. One of the key things is to start with the real targets. What are realistic targets for your business, and actually build from there and know what your sales goals are in relation to revenue. So one of the key things they ask me is, why isn't it working for me? Why am I not generating the needs and the quality of leads that I want? And because of that, they're obviously not hitting their sales targets. Now, the second thing they often come to me about is the quality of leads that they're getting. What's wrong with my targeting? Why aren't I attracting the right type of people that are suited to their programs? And how do I know where to find these people and how to connect with these people? How do I resonate with these people? So there's a whole range of questions that they ask around that. They just can't get their head around that whole thing. And then the other thing is, the other thing they say is, well, my lead magnet, what's wrong with my lead magnet? Why isn't my lead magnet attracting the right type of people as well? So they have challenges around choosing the right type of lead magnet. And as we spoke about in the last episode, There is so much information out there for people. There's marketing experts everywhere that will tell you, try this, try that. And it's only because they're pushing their own barrow. So I think it's very important to actually, when you've got key challenges, to sort of push aside those things that may actually be stopping you or putting roadblocks in front of you, actually, overcoming those main challenges that you have.
Yeah, very much so. It's interesting, isn't it? There's always such a plethora of why isn't this working, and there's steps to the thinking out or the planning out or mapping out to find the successful formula, and that's certainly what I find from a content perspective. Is, I suppose straight away I'd say not all content is good content, and not all content's going to attract the right person, and as you said, your ideal target market. And I think for me, clients come to me sort of saying similar things, but they're talking about wanting to grow a community, they're wanting to add value, they're wanting to find those right people for that community. So that's our ideal target market again, and they want to attract the right leads. That have got the same value. So there's sort of a bit of a resonance there. And I think this is where strategy, whether it's strategy about generating leads and sales, which is utilizing your funnels, but also there's a strategy about the content that supports what it is that you're doing as well. So we often talk about, what are you selling into for the next 90 days, e.g. what's your program, and choreographing content around that. But I think it's important to help people understand that, content marketing strategy or marketing strategy in general is one of the most highly searched Google search terms that there is. So obviously there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace, and that is because there's so many people talking about so many things, as you say, pushing their wheelbarrow. And I find from a strategy perspective, and I think you'll probably find this is similar with yours, but from a content strategy perspective, people get so focused on, I've got to get the lead magnet done, or I've got to get content out there, and they forget that all the things that they're doing, all the tasks that they're doing, is designed to drive sales. It's not just to get content out there. It's not just to get a lead magnet out there. It's not just to get something out there quick. And this is where I think we see people that become fatigued and frustrated because they're not getting that return on investment. And something I often share when we've been talking, and I often share on podcasts, is that I believe from a content perspective, and I think this marries perfectly over to the sales funnel perspective, is that there's actually three types of content. There's the relationship building, which is your marketing and you're adding value, the plan, stuff that you can plan. And then there's your business revenue driving content. So that helps lead them to the thing that you're selling. And then there's that resonance building, which is, where your ideal target market goes, oh my God, they get me. By finding and having that, which is you can do through your images and the value that you add, you do actually find that audience that thinks like you, just falls in love with you, will walk all over those hot coals because they feel that you get them, which comes back to that, understanding your audience intimately. So I think the marry of content and the strategy of getting the sales funnel right can really elevate someone's success as it relates to, filling events and getting the leads and sales that they're wanting.
Agree, Sally. And I think, and you would be, the expert in this, but getting that balance right with that content too, the same as we talk about getting the balance right with the information you're sharing in your webinars and things like that, but getting that balance right depending on where you are in your business journey.
Very much so. And I think a lot of people just do get planned into that. Let's get some content out. Let's just get any content out. And that we'll talk about some different hacks around doing that. But not all content's the right content. And just understanding the journey, which is that 90-day plan, which is the map that you talk about as well, understanding that and understanding your audience's reactions within all of that, their pitfalls and all the rest of it, helps you really support their journey. And when you're supporting their journey, then that's where the magic happens there as well. So with the work that you're doing with the clients, questions that they come to you, which is exactly the questions like this for me. What do you find is the key thing around that strategy, or the key challenges around? You talked about understanding. What can we sort of dig into that a little bit? What's the key things that get in their way?
Look, I think the key things are from the outset having a real clarity around what it is they want to achieve. And I come back to, you see these claims out here. We will, earn $100,000 in the next 90 days. Well, that's just total. It's never going to happen. So I think being very clear about what your goals are and what are realistic goals, and I think getting that down and, accepting that slow growth is good growth, especially when you're first starting out, or if things aren't working for you, making sure you're very clear about what it is that you want to achieve. And, we all get caught by that, or we can get caught by those shiny object syndrome. So staying very focused on that. So it's really about really digging down, putting that down on paper and sticking to it, maintaining your focus, not being detracted with other things and side railed by that. So I think that's really important. And I think knowing your prospects, what will attract them, and, what will actually get, how will I actually reach them? How do I know what they're talking about? What is the language that they're using? And that's about taking your time to do your market research. And, when you say the words market research to people, they often sort of freak out and go, oh, no, that sounds huge. They're going to take, a whole team and months of work. Yeah. But that's not the case. There's very, very simple ways that you can do that. And that's about digging into your current clients or people that would be your ideal clients and having conversations with them. So there's very, very easy and quick wins that you can do to actually get the language right and actually get the, all the information that you need, not only to create your product and to be able to promote your product, but to create that content as well, which I'm sure you would probably agree with.
Yeah. Very much so. I think there's a couple of things that have just made me giggle there. There's two things that came up for me from my own experience. Was I love the comment around slow growth, because certainly through my career I've done and worked with some great people and had phenomenally fast growth, and then the wheels fall off. Yeah. Because it's been too fast and I haven't had enough systems set in place or something, I just haven't been prepared for it. And you just have this great big rise, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off, and therefore you almost end up back where you started again, and you've sort of got to redo it. So I love that you've talked about slow growth is good growth, because it's that foundational growth. The other thing that I find and tweaked in my mind was the phrase, know your numbers, because I have a lot of people that will come to me and go, I want, and they'll have these extreme numbers, but the reality of what their capacity is relates to what they can actually deliver, and the time that they've actually got, the numbers don't work. So it's, not everybody needs thousands of clients. Some clients only need 10 clients a year. Yeah. Know where your client numbers are, I think is one of the key challenges. And then when you understand your key numbers and you've got your plan and your choreographing and you're working to that, but you can create your content, because there's not these thousands of people coming in, and knowing the numbers, and that level of clarity again gives you massive confidence, and that foundational growth enables you to maintain and build that consistency. And everybody knows consistency across the board is one of my key phrases, which is very cool. What do you think from let's just talk about mindset, because we talked a little bit about mindset last week. From a mindset perspective, and I love that we all we all panic when someone says market research, because when you said market research, I sort of went, oh yeah, market research, because we do automatically think, I know we've all been caught on those, can we do some market research calls, and they tell you they're going to be 5 minutes and they end up being 25 minutes later. So we do tend to think that market research is going to take a lot longer. So clearly, just from that bodily reaction of mine and that reaction that we have with clients, we still do tend to overcomplicate things. So what do you see as some of the common things as to why it gets overcomplicated? Can you elaborate on that at all?
I think, like the way we do our market research and the way we teach our clients to do their market research is very, very simple and very effective. And I think when people start adding things to something that is proven and works, then it becomes the monster you don't want.
Yeah.
You're just feeding this big monster and you're continually trying to give it more food and get more information, and you just don't need to do that. So you need to sort of sit on your hands and just stick to what is actually provided and what actually works with your market research, because you're going to find trends very, very quickly, and you're going to get that from about 6 interviews. So I think it's very important not to change what works, but just to trust in the process.
Yes.
And have the mindset that you can actually do this. So don't be tempted to look over here and look over there and add more questions to it. Just dig into what's already there.
Yeah. I'm just going to share a little story. One part of the market research we do as it relates to content that resonates is I'll say to a client, go across to your LinkedIn and go for the last couple of months, copy and paste your most popular posts that have got the most comments, and actually just highlight the common word, the common phrases or the common words. That's part of how we find common themes and phrases, and that resonance with the audience. Did it have an image? Did it not have an image? So, but I've had one client where I've said that to, and they've gone off and done that, and then there's all this other stuff, and I've sort of looked at it and gone, I don't know what to look at there because there's too much on the page. So that's that, adding more stuff versus let's just find the slipstream. That's what, the marketing can be as easy as finding, those regular and different slipstreams, that slipstream of information. And one of the things that we talk about a lot, and you and I love sort of systems and that type of thing, is, creating simple systems. And from a content perspective, repurposing your content is actually a skill. When you learn that skill, you can actually save a whole lot of time and elevate your content, brand equity, and all those sorts of things. But again, people won't slow down enough to actually replicate and duplicate and learn what they're doing instinctively and naturally. And when they've slowed down enough and actually learned that skill and can actually see it, so the difference between seeing it and learning it. But when you do slow down enough, you can actually duplicate yourself. And I think this is the opportunity with everything that we're going to be sharing over this episode and the next episode. Is there's so many opportunities to keep what people are doing very, very simple.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, what are the practical steps as it relates to overcoming these challenges that clients are having? Now, obviously, it's keeping things simple. It's doing market research that we've just mentioned. What are some of the other things that people can do to overcome any of their challenges that they're having?
I think one of the key things, some of the key things that people can look at when they're trying to overcome these challenges is looking at their messaging too. What's their messaging look like? And actually talk to clients or prospective clients about what their messaging looks like to them, and give them different versions of that messaging, and let your market choose what's going to work, because often what we think is going to work does not work. And I think it's important too to sort of test different things. So I'll just give you an example here, because one of the key things we come across, especially with sales funnels, we can fill the events with people, but then what actually works on the webinars, if they're using webinars as a lead magnet, is the information that they're sharing and giving, because everyone wants to give so much. So it's important just to give like a helicopter overview of things and maybe target on one really high value item and dig into that a little bit and give some information on that. And then what happens is, because when we go through, we do strategy with our clients, it's about you talked about repurposing. It's about repurposing your webinar content as well. So for example, if you used a particular part of your program to highlight in your last webinar, then change things up, repurpose everything and highlight another area and see what's really resonating with the market. Because then when you work out what they're really looking for, and this changes over time, what worked 3 years ago doesn't work today. What may have worked 12 months ago may not work for you today. So you've got to be constantly changing things up and prepared to actually work on it. Because anything in your business, like your business is a growth process, no matter what you're doing, and you've got to work on it. And that includes your content and all the assets and resources that you actually use to actually generate the leads and the revenue for your business. So thinking you've got the ultimate answer and it's just going to keep generating is a trap for, it's going to be a disaster long term for your business if you do that and just sit back and let it go.
Yeah, very much so. And again, I'm going to come back to that, the simplicity element in there, because as a oversharer, it's very, and still can be incredibly easy for me to do the fire hose of information. And any great sales trainer will say a confused mind doesn't buy. But sometimes that oversharing and that overgiving of content or information, people go, they love it, but they don't know what to do with it next, because now they've got too many choices or things that they could do, so they don't do any because they've got too much. They've got a different version of overwhelm, too much information now. So that's where it's so important, as you've said, to sort of really track it back, particularly from a webinar perspective, and determine, what's the one thing that you're going to really focus on, and then testing that other one thing to take it out to the market and test it in the market and get the feedback from it. Because unless it's been tested in the marketplace, we don't know, because we get so close to it. It can flatline. And I've certainly had things that I've thought are going to be absolutely brilliant that have just totally flatlined in the marketplace, because I was convinced, in my mind, that they were going to work. And when I took it out to market, it just hasn't. So that's where that testing and that feedback and testing it in the market is very important. I think from a content perspective, that clarity of message and that consistency of message and or topics becomes very, very important. I know in the early days when I started, 15 odd years ago, and I was just talking about all sorts of different things, I'd always get asked, what are you doing now, Sally? Which I now know means, oh my God, you're always doing something different. I don't know what you do. You're too hard to buy. I don't understand. You've got great stuff, but I don't get it because it's all over the shop, which is that consistency of message thing. So one of the hacks that we share with clients is, what's your big word or your big theme going to be for the year? And then what are the topics that support that? And then, as you said, no more bright, shiny things. Let's just focus in on those topics and what you're selling into. And then you can create a really robust marketing and repurposing resources. And it's also easy to decide what to repurpose from webinars and those sorts of things, because you go, oh, what are my keywords? Okay, I'll find content around those. And again, you simplify the time warp rabbit warren of going down the rabbit warren or the wrong rabbit warren for too long. Etc., which can be very, very easy to do in marketing when it's habitual to overcomplicate it. But I think we want to share with people that it is much simpler than what most people tend to make it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the opportunity with content too, and those sorts of things, and replication, as you've got with the systems. When you've set up one system, it's easy to duplicate another webinar system with a different product. So you can leverage and repurpose what you're setting up, just like you can set up templates within Canva with your content. You're really starting to have that consistency of brand language, of resources, of topics, etc. as well. So let's talk about some of the challenges you've had in the past, and that'll probably trigger a whole heap of mine again as well. Reflecting on your journey, has there been any particular turning points or challenges that have shaped what your personal approach and perhaps what you now share with clients as it relates to generating leads?
Yeah, I think probably for me, the key challenge was actually realizing that I had to have an annual plan and I had to have that focus that you talked about.
Yep.
Okay. And making sure I did my market research and took on board consistently getting feedback over the previous 12 months and knowing what the market was after and what it wanted. Because one of my favorite sayings from Seth Godin, who is one of my favorite marketing gurus, is don't find customers for your products, build products for your customers. Okay.
Oh, that's gold. Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Don't find customers for your products, build products for your customers. Now that means that we need to step apart from ourselves, like you talked about before, and actually build something that our customers want, that our clients want, that the market is craving, instead of what we think is just going to bounce off walls and do fantastic things for our bottom line.
Yeah.
Because as you say, it often doesn't work because we're disconnected from the market. Yes. And we don't know that true pain that they're in. So I think it's really important to be sure that what we're creating is not what we feel, but it's what the market wants and needs.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. And that comes back to testing it in the market, looking, what we talk about, look back to look forward. And statistics within your marketing content, somewhere where there's great insights, which I find most people do not look at. And this is something I've done much more consistently, is looking at the number of times people are opening your e-newsers and those sorts of things around certain topics. Because if you get a spike in the same client opening it multiple times, there's great intel in those reports in your e-newsers in the back office that most people don't even know that they're there or don't even ever look at them. And how many times has that client shared an e-news because the content was so good? I've had clients, when I've looked in at that data and, sort of 10 times opening, it's quite good. But, you'll see a spike where the number says 43 and it's like, oh my God, what and why? And then you can sort of go through that. So I think, again, you've got the systems you've got in place, whatever they may be, there is intel within those systems. And if you look at them and just trust the information instinctively, they leave clues. So there's that saying, success leaves clues. There's clues in that sort of data. So that's a Sally Mag, is to look at the data, not just the social media likes and comments, but also all of the other data and that sort of thing that comes through and the number of times people click on things. I think for me, as it relates to generating leads and sales, and this isn't just necessarily content, this is across the board. I think the biggest thing that I've learnt, and patience is not one of my virtues, I like fast paced, is that the timing of when somebody purchases is not relevant to our timing. So when we want somebody to purchase something because we've got a great product and a great program and we're all excited about it, it is never about our timing. It is always about when they're ready, which is why you have to have the right number of leads coming in that are looking for or are considering what it is that you offer, because the timing will be about what's going on in their world at that time, and when they're ready to buy, etc. So that timing element was always been, but I need it, when we're in that desperation mode of, I need sales coming in, or I need leads and I need sales. And I think every expert has experienced that scarcity and that process where you get so excited about what you're delivering and you get so into it, and then you get to the edge where you're needing it. You sort of need it to. I see that a lot with the up and coming speakers and things and experts that we work with. But it's just, okay, back it off a little bit. Let's look at the strategy. Let's tidy up, because tidying up the strategy, which I think you've alluded to beautifully, by tidying up the strategy, looking at the intel and the information that you've already got in the data, and just those 1% little tweaks and refinements is where the magic happens. It's not throw the baby and the bathwater out the window and let's start again. Sometimes it is just those little refinements and tweaks that occur.
Yeah, and it's also, about looking for those gaps when you're looking at strategy and analysing. Because, I'll give you just one brief example. There's a number of people that I've spoken to, and it's quite common. And these are generally people that do webinars, because that's a big part of what I focus on, of course. And after their webinars, there is no follow-up. There's no emails. There's nothing. Yes. And these are experienced speakers and entrepreneurs, and it just blows me away, because statistically about 80% of your sales will come afterwards through emails. So it's just all that lost opportunity. So I just wanted to share that quickly with everyone.
Yeah, so I think that's an absolute key, and I've seen that's what we call that all or nothing approach, and that's where that consistency element comes into play as well. I know I'm just going to talk about that all or nothing approach just quickly and circle back. I remember when I worked with News Corp and did some of their sales training keynotes, etc., and they talked about it was more print media back in the day, but they talked about the peaks and the troughs of marketing, how everyone goes, yep, let's do our marketing, and then all of a sudden they stop doing their marketing, it falls off a cliff, and then they do some marketing again and it falls off a cliff. And what they have found through their data and statistics is when you're going up up to the peak and your marketing is consistent, you're building great brand awareness, you're building consistency, you're building trust with your audience. But when you actually fall off the cliff and you go back down into the valley and you're suddenly no longer around, what you're actually doing is building trust and awareness in the marketplace then for your competitors, because you've actually created an awareness around and agitated their problem and helped them start to understand their problem. And when they're looking to continually understand it and unpack it further with you through your content and your webinars, they can't find you because you've fallen off the cliff as it relates to consistent new marketing. So they'll go and find the next expert that's talking about what you've just made them aware about. So I think that consistency of message and of in this case relationship building, which is where you're talking about. So this is where people get so excited about doing the lead generation activities. I see this a lot with my the speakers and that I work with. They'll do all the lead generation, the prep before their keynotes or their training or their launch of their book, and then everything falls off the cliff after that. So let's talk about this opportunity of consistency as it relates to relationship building and this nurturing process, because I think this is, as you said, a gap that is profound in the space that we work in, and I don't think people realise what the opportunity is. So let's have a look, and what the question I'll ask you here is, what advice would you give to individuals that are aspiring to become experts in their industries as it relates to that nurturing and the after major event type scenario? What's your advice that you'd share?
The one key thing I would say is to build your presence, and you can do that through all the content and that you're putting out there and the way you're presenting things, and your influence as a thought leader. So build yourself up as a thought leader and differentiate what you're actually doing in some way, shape or form. Now, we all know in reality there's probably nothing new under the sun. So it's how you actually differentiate yourself, because that's the only way the marketplace is going to see you as indispensable. So I think it's important to do that. And that comes way back down to strategy again. Without strategy, there is nothing. So, I think the key thing is to actually have that strategy in place and to be working to that strategy. And that is so important, to actually build that presence and that relationship all through everything that you actually do, because people won't buy from you generally if they don't know you. They need to have some level of relationship and trust there.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm going to use the phrase I use a lot: no more cardboard cutouts. I say that because this is something that I did when you're growing a business, and especially in these early days. So we're talking about the aspiring, as an aspiring speaker or coach or trainer or whatever. We tend to have our own coaches and mentors that we aspire to be and become, and we follow them and we learn their processes and we fall in love with what they're doing and we get what they're doing. But and that's great. We do need to find what works and understand what works, and that's what they teach us. But we need to remember not to lose ourselves within that process. So yes, do more of what works, but remember, refine and find what works for you, because you don't need another cardboard cutout of the guru at the front of the room. We want your points of difference. We want your personality. We want your tics and quirks to bring to the marketplace, because that's where you'll find that resonance. When you can find that resonance with your audience, that they like you because you're a bit quirky or whatever, then that makes a big difference. And the other thing, from a content or from a marketing and attraction perspective, it actually becomes a really good sorting mechanism. So you do get more of the clients, etc., and the ideal target market that you actually want to look for. Do you have any comment around the sorting mechanism? Otherwise, I've got some stories I can share around different sorting.
The only thing I'd say around this, and it's not really sorting, but I'll just touch on it briefly, is just be yourself, because you're going to attract the right people to work with you. It's no good trying to be that guy at the front of the room that you think has got it all together, because at the end of the day, you're going to attract people that are not going to fit with your personality, and you're not going to fit with them. And that's a recipe for disaster as well.
Yeah, very much so. And the reason I called it sorting is, I think sometimes when you actually show your personality, years ago, but so my company name is actually Twisted Connector. And I used to be, my branding was, my business name and everything back then was Twisted Connector. And when I would meet people and give my business card out, I'd get two reactions. And this is where I talk about the sorting mechanism as it relates to you standing in your own power and owning who you are and differentiation. I would have clients that would go, "Oh, that's a bit weird," or, "Oh, wow, that's really cool. Who do you think I would work with?" And sometimes it is just as much as that. You'll find your people, the people that you'll want to have on the bus, and that can shine through in the way that your systems flow out, the way in which you create your content, and in the way in which you add value to your audience. So I do think there is real power in not being a cardboard cutout of somebody else, but really finding your own voice and messaging.
Yeah,
find inspiration in others. We need to find our own voice and messaging, etc., within that as well.
Yeah.
And I do, coming back to that strategic advice, I think if I was to add anything there as it relates to a content perspective, strategic advice doesn't have to be, super long-winded. Sometimes it's just some of those simple insights and that simplicity of systems, etc. Is from a content perspective, if you're visible and you've got compelling content and you're adding value, then you'll naturally increase your influence. When you increase your influence because you're building those relationships, understanding the information in the data, you become easy to consume because you get your audience. When you're easy to consume and you get your audience, you become easy to buy.
Yeah.
And I think that is, really critical point to share there. So let's have a look at some of the simple steps to break through the challenges as it relates to sales and generating leads and sales. And what are some of the key consistencies or the simple steps to break through that clients need to consider?
Yeah, I think the key to me with the most simple step to breaking through, and I'm just going to keep repeating it, Sally, is your focus. Okay,
Yeah.
that is really, really important. Stick to your focus and stick to your plan, because that is how you are going to break through. If you're not, you're just going to, as you said, you're going to confuse people. People won't know really who you are or what you do. You're going to be all over the shop. And they're not going to know what to come to you for. So by having that focus and sticking to that is critical, in my opinion, and from what I've seen with our clients. When they start adding bits in, that's when it starts to all fragment and fall apart.
And I'm laughing because it's very easy to add little bits in, and then, as I said, the wheels fall off. So definitely have done that in the past. It is that I'm going to call it a habit. And I've had a girlfriend that says, do you like the word discipline? How does the word discipline make you feel? And at the time, if she'd asked me that 5 years ago, I would have, cringed and had the horrors, just like when somebody says market research. But when you actually come to appreciate discipline as it relates to habits and focus and consistency, you know where the magic actually lies. So there's that discipline to be, to keep things simple, not overcomplicate. And to keep that consistency up.
Yeah, trust in your process and trust in the people. Like if you're working with coaches and consultants that, like yourself, that are content creation experts, I think it's very important to trust in that process and not be thinking that, you're getting into swim lanes that are not your swim lane as a business owner. So stick to what you're good at and let the people that you work with do their job. Yeah, do what they're good at.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think for me, there's a phrase that I use across a lot of things, and for everybody that knows me, it's always a Sally nag about consistency. So I'm going to say it again. I think some of the, the most successful brands that we see out there, like your Apple, like your Canva, like your Nike and all those sorts of things, or even if we look at personal brands like Oprah and Richard Branson and all those sorts of people, successful brands are a product of trust. Trust is a product of consistency. And I'm just going to add in there, consistency is, doing some of those habitual things and sticking to them. And consistency, in my world, and I think in the world that we play in, consistency of that focus is one of the greatest differentiators of creating the success and the foundational success and that long-term growth that people are actually looking for.
Absolutely,
yeah. Beautiful. Well, we have sped through our session today already again, so that's awesome. Is there any last minute thoughts or tips that you want to share with the audience, Nyrie?
Not so much tips, but for the newbies out there, the people that haven't done anything and are starting out and just don't know where to start, believe in yourself. You can do it. Other people have done it, and just find a process, find someone that resonates with you that you can work with, and follow the process. Find the right formula for you and the right strategy for yourself, and trust in that process and believe in yourself, because you can do it too.
Yep, beautiful. And I'll add to that for those that like fast pace and that want to speed through a process or skip steps in a process, don't do it. Just follow the process. Sometimes stop is the greatest speed there is. Yeah. And that's, for people like me, that's that whole patience things, and we don't often like that. But stopping before you start is one of the greatest things. And then find the right process, and then just follow the steps. So I'm going to put in there the steps of the process.
Yeah, and look, be happy to put things out there that aren't perfect.
Yes.
People don't. Well, some people expect perfection. That's the OCD coming out. But put it out there. Don't wait till it's 100% perfect. You can always refine as you go along. The main thing is to start.
Yeah, and perfection is not a plan.
No.
He said to me at one point, I went, "Oh, it's pretty good. I like that." Yeah, perfectionism is not a plan.
No.
So again, just to as a bit of a recap today, definitely keep things simple. Look for processes, follow the processes. Don't add too many bolt-ons, if any. Follow the process, keep it simple, find what resonates with you, do more of what's working, and look at the data and the intel that sits all around you, would be my tips there from that. So that's another episode that we've done with Nyrie as it relates to sales and lead generation. And we will look forward to seeing you again very, very soon on another episode of Success Secrets Exposed. Till then, thank you very much, Nyrie, and have a great day. Thank you.
You too, Sally. Thank you.
Bye.
See you later.